he is like one of those like weirdly fitness, health obsessed people. And like his like idea of starting a conversation is walking up to someone and like asking them what they've been eating that day. And it's just like, yeah, peak like rich weird guy behavior.
I'm like, cabbage.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you should ride the elevator with me next.
Yeah. That would end the conversation, right? They'd be like, no, I think I'll just take the stairs.
Real man of genius.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all around the world, we bring you another ripping edition of the Dan Versus Dee Sports and Stuff podcast with the initials DVD, as in DVD player, on your player, D with 2 E's, and always by my side on studio left is...
Dan with an A-N.
Dan, the man he can. What's going on, man?
Hey, we're hanging out. We're back after a little bit of a... not really. This is pretty normal for us.
I mean, not as aggressive though. It's like it's more of a quicker turnarounds than like than in the past. So
yeah,
which I'm happy with.
I think we've settled into a good cadence here where we do like one big one and then like a little bonus to tide you over in the meantime, and then it all kind of comes out in the wash. So.
It makes me think of that home movies, that episode I told you about, like, just a little bit ago off the mic of just like the Fenton's party. Yeah. And then Jason's like all like, all messy and sticky and stuff from the soda and the candy. He's like, don't worry, it comes out in the wash. Everything does.
It's true. He's not wrong. 1 second.
Oh man. So he's gonna go get the camera. Like Doja Cat said in the song Cybersex, I love it. Yeah. I was hoping to get that line in before he came back into the frame.
Yeah. No, but I did the thing last time where I had the timeline scrolling and then I made it like a YouTube short.
Ooh.
So I'm trying to like get a little more sophisticated at this stuff. And I think it was the clip where we were talking about Big Yank.
Yeah.
Which, so a funny story. So Big Yank was actually just us riffing because I looked again and his nickname is actually The Yank. It's not Big Yank. But I was like, I don't care. That joke was so incredible that like, I don't care. That's the title of the episode anyway.
What was that for? Ben Simmons?
Yeah. This has been your first DVD fact check of the day. It's actually The Yank, not Big Yank.
Just remember, when you fact check, that means you're biased.
It is, yeah.
That's his line, but I just felt like saying it because that feels good to say.
I'm so biased. I'm gonna be a guitar amp.
Oh,
because that's you. I actually don't even know what that means, but that's a thing you do to an amp when it needs maintenance. Is you get it rebiased.
Oh, so hey, before everything here, while we have a live mic here,
yes,
I was listening back to like the previous podcast episode. And I just want to say, man, what did I fucking tell you about the fucking Eagles, man? I told you they were going to do it. I put a freaking Joe Namath guaranteed on them. And not only did they deliver, they pillaged them, man.
I was going to say, yeah, I guess really that's I guess that's what we're leading with is the fact that, yeah, I couldn't have been more wrong.
No, it's all fun. It's just like other, told you so's. This one, I'm satisfied in saying, told you so. It's just, sometimes my gut feeling is like 90% accurate, it feels like.
Yeah.
At least 80%. See,
oh, actually, it accidentally pulled up the NFL thing because that was one of the last links we had open.
That's why I was also reminded when I saw the Eagles at the top. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta mention that. But hey, I'm glad the Eagles won.
Yeah, that was great.
And Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, fuck the Chiefs.
Don't worry, they'll be back. They'll have like 5 more Super Bowls.
Probably. But I mean, yeah. And Tom Brady never got his ass kicked that bad in a Super Bowl ever, and Patrick Mahomes has done it twice now.
He got his ass kicked in the wild card round like that against Baltimore Ravens.
Yes. Let's get into the meat and potatoes here.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty and talk about a bullshit city. They actually earned that being.
Yep. So we're gonna call, and this is basically just gonna be the rest of the episode. This is an NBA heavy one. I'm sure you guys won't complain too much about that.
Yeah, because newsflash, the football season is over unless you watch the UFL. But they just started, so there's not much to talk about that yet. Plus, I haven't really watched much of that yet, but I will because I love football. But that's neither here nor there.
All right. So, how do we want to contextualize this? So,
I don't know what to say.
So, I think it's worth noting that I had a minor surgical procedure around the time of our last recording, which is why my dad was here to help take care of me over that weekend.
You seem like you I don't know if you was masking, but you seem to be handling really well. I don't know if you was handling your pain well, or you weren't experiencing much.
I didn't have much pain at all.
Okay,
very little.
Yeah, because
I did not take the actual pain medicine they gave me at all.
I just because I was wondering, because I didn't know if you was toughing it out, staying in the game, or it was just no, I'm legit not in pain, because you didn't complain not once really about it.
No, okay. I was good.
Yeah, I'm glad. And in that episode, we did an update of my long term injury. So hey,
I was gonna say, yeah, you look you look great.
Thanks, you too, man.
But yeah, and I'm fully recovered from that at this point. But
yeah,
so for this procedure, I had general anesthesia, so I did fine. I was woozy when I woke up, and I was a little just a little more out of it than normal the rest of that day. And I think we recorded the next day, but that was a quick turnaround. I don't know how you did that. Yeah,
man.
And
see,
then
this guy does it for the love of the game, man. If it was me, I probably would just slept the weekend. The show goes on, guys.
I can't ever stop. It's kind of a problem.
Never gonna stop. Rob Zombie.
All my life, I've been over the top. I don't know what I'm doing. All I know is I don't want to stop. Ozzy Osbourne.
Without biting bat heads.
So I was a little out of it, and this must have been after the recording, because I feel like we would have covered it if it had happened beforehand. So
yeah, I think it might happen after.
So yeah, everybody's phone buzzed around midnight of whenever that was. It was January 30th or something. But it was that night. It was that Saturday going into Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Whenever that was, I might as well just actually look up the date.
Yeah, I think it was Saturday going to Sunday, because it's just is this speculation or is this legit?
Yeah, because my surgery was on the 31st, so we're gonna call that out. But yeah, so this was February 1st going into 2nd. Everybody's phone buzzed there was a nuclear first strike incoming.
Target creature first strike.
And yeah, it looked like a joke. It was, Luka Doncic traded to the Lakers from I believe Shams broke it.
Ooh.
And yeah, everybody was like, what the fuck? Apparently Shams said afterwards that
Shams?
Shams Charania, who is the new Woj.
Oh, okay.
It's weird. He was Woj was his mentor for years, and then I think he was not at ESPN or something like that, and they ended up feuding as being the NBA's Adam Schefter.
Huh.
Something like that. I don't know the details.
Interesting. The T, yeah.
And Shams is known for having we'll just say a very interesting way of writing, where he
hyperbole?
No, it's you might say, I put my hand on the doorknob. His writing style is the Nuggets have considered placing a hand over and around the brass doorknob and gripping.
Huh. So jazzing it up.
Yeah. Well, just
inferring.
Prose that is like unnecessarily convoluted. Anyway, we're just having a little bit of fun. Shams is great.
So he's just trying to meet that page requirement for a term paper.
I was talking to somebody about that recently. The exercise when you have a paper that's, say, I don't know, 8 pages, and you're like struggling to hit that 8th page and you really run out of ideas, you go back through and you find the line that's like 90% of the way over. You like pad that sentence with a couple of words so that it spills over onto the next line.
Ooh, yeah. We need the tips.
We had to do this on hard mode because we didn't have ChatGPT back then.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't, we actually did our homework and didn't have a computer do it for us.
Yeah. Ooh,
which is
snap.
Anyway. By the way, no AI is used at any part of the creative process for this podcast. Just figured I should throw that out there. It's in the show description.
Unless we are AI and we don't even know it yet. Because if I found out that I was like AI all this time, I would have the ultimate existential crisis.
I think I'd be okay with it. Although, why would you? Because that's an interesting question, right? Is like, if you were going to do that, why would you design a human, like Android AI robot thing that like ages and dies? Like, why would you do that?
I guess
it's like the Bicentennial Man question.
Maybe. Well, I think if the goal is to make sure the AIs don't know they're in on this being AI, maybe it's just developed by design, they're made by design so they don't question that. Yeah. I don't know. This is getting all this become a sci-fi channel.
I know. Yeah. I guess it's the Blade Runner thing where it's like an open question as to whether the girl or Deckard or both are replicants. But anyway,
there was a movie also called AI.
Artificial Intelligence.
Yeah. I've never seen that.
Interestingly, that movie was going to be was Stanley Kubrick's last movie that he was working on before he died. He didn't finish it because he died.
That would be a limiting factor for real.
Steven Spielberg stepped in and finished the movie for him.
Okay, good.
So technically, Kubrick did not get a director credit on that movie, but it was his last movie.
You got the ultimate closer, though. Yeah. It's like, okay, we're up a run. Spielberg, come in and spill us in this 9th inning.
Come in and throw 97 to Albert Bell here, would you?
Yeah, we got to go against. The top of the order with Shohei batting cleanup.
Yep.
So,
anyways, so this was a shocker. Shams said afterwards that like people were texting him thinking he'd been hacked. And we're like, hey man, are you okay? Like, you might want to check on your Twitter account or whatever.
You might check your sources.
Yeah. And he was like, nope, this is real. It was completely without warning. There was no rumor beforehand. There was no nothing. And I mean, again, it's worth contextualizing, and we've covered it on the show, but this team literally just made a magical finals run where Luka was hurt and carried them to the finals like less than 6 months ago, or at least before this.
Was he like on one leg?
Yeah, his leg was messed up. Ooh. And it's like, what? And so details started to emerge. They did essentially a swap for Anthony Davis.
An injury-prone Anthony Davis.
To pair with an injury-prone Kyrie.
Aging Anthony Davis. Because, Luka's only, 27? 26?
Luka's 25.
He looks 27.
Luka's 25, and he's had one of the better beginnings to a career, like, ever.
It's like he don't average a triple-double, but, like, he probably could if he wanted to.
He had a 60-point, 20-rebound game at one point.
Those are astronomical numbers.
It's nuts. But
I'm looking at the guy that was initially traded for Luka.
I was gonna say, now we're watching. Man, Luka's just the reputation killer by being better than the people he's been traded for.
Yeah,
but details emerged. We need to introduce the villain of this story now, or one of the villains of this story, which is Nico Harrison, the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks.
Oh, for a second, I thought Nico Collins, man. But no, he's not a villain. He's a good football player.
So Nico Harrison essentially, I guess, won kind of a power struggle for sort of control of the Mavericks front office. It's worth adding context here that Mark Cuban sold the team not long ago to the Dumont and Adelson families.
Why did he do that? Because Mark Cuban is the Mavericks.
They probably made him an offer he couldn't refuse. The reason they bought the team is they made their money in gambling and they want to legalize gambling in Texas. And then they want the Mavericks to be the market leader.
Wait, they're not. It's not legalized in Texas?
Nope.
I thought they would be the first to be legalized.
Yep.
Like, or at least the first after like Nevada. Dang.
Yep. So that's essentially what they are. They're trying to break new market ground.
So here's reason number 1,602 why gambling sucks and ruins everything.
Gambling.
I still owe my wife an ice cream cone because I did a parlay with her. Side tangent. I did a parlay with her between like Carolina and Duke. She thought that Duke was gonna crush us by like 20 or something. But I was like, I have more confidence with my guys. So I was like, okay, we'll lose by like, I think we'll lose by like less than 10 points. It was the over under of 10. But they lost by like 12.
Oh, just barely. Squeaking by.
I mean, it made it more exciting to watch, though. I'm like, hey, Case, it's only 9 points.
Get it down to 10. Apparently, Nico Harrison's just kind of a weird guy, where
it sounds like a guy that would be either like a underrated genius or like a weird guy, but based on the name alone.
So somebody profiled him not long after this, obviously for obvious reasons. And like he is like one of those like weirdly fitness, health obsessed people. And like his like idea of starting a conversation is walking up to someone and like asking them what they've been eating that day. And it's just like, yeah, peak like rich weird guy behavior.
I'm like, cabbage.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you should ride the elevator with me next.
Yeah. That would end the conversation, right? They'd be like, no, I think I'll just take the stairs.
Real man of genius. The broad strokes are, on the way out the door, the Mavericks basically kept constantly leaking to the press, oh, Luka is fat, he's lazy, he doesn't work hard. Certain people in the Mavericks front office think that like he's a player that like compiles counting stats and doesn't affect winning as much as it seems like he does. And it's like, what the fuck were you guys watching last June?
Yeah, because look at someone who's achieved much less, but still got a payday and still had the complaints about his weight, his work ethic, and like his overall desire and love for the game. Dang, I'm blanking on him. For the Pelicans. Zion.
Zion.
Yeah. No, he got a payday, and he achieved much less. Actually, underachieved because he missed so many games.
I was gonna say Shaq. Like Shaq was accused of that his whole career. Of like not working out enough, not with
the Lakers. With the Lakers,
a little bit, probably more earlier in his career.
Ooh, I don't know,
but that was the thing, and that
maybe
was like,
with the Magic, and that was a horrible trade.
And I want to say that was like part of the rift between Shaq and Kobe was Kobe's Mr. Mamba mentality,
Shaq had the Mamba mentality too, but you can't always stop the guy unless you fouled him.
Yeah.
Once he gets the ball, it looks like a toy in his hand. He just dunks it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, come on. One person that could go toe to toe with him was like Yao Ming.
And so Nico Harrison won. I believe he is a former Nike executive, so he doesn't even have a background in running a front office.
Was he in the movie Airness?
Maybe. He is old buddies with Rob Pelinka on the Lakers, who used to be Kobe Bryant's agent, and that was his in with the Lakers to becoming their GM. And the details emerged that like, and you know, I guess maybe their take would be, well, we needed absolute secrecy. We didn't want news of us wanting to trade Luka being leaked. So, but like,
yeah, because everyone would have flamed them for being a bad idea.
But he literally only negotiated with Rob Pelinka for like a short time and then just pulled the trigger on the trade. And obviously, if you're trading a franchise icon, you're not doing it without the assent of ownership, which means, you know, the Dumont family like signed off on this also.
But why?
And here's the thing. So
this is why millionaires and billionaires should not be in charge of, like, you know, sports operations.
And that's the thing. And apparently, you know, there was a lot of like, there was tension behind the scenes, like with Luka for some time. And there was that, I guess now infamous thing where like they won a playoff series and they were celebrating in the locker room and he had a beer and somebody from the team took the beer away from him and stuff. Like, it's weird, man. They were so weird with him.
Wait, who took the beer from him?
Some team like person. Hey everyone, Dan here checking in with possibly the stupidest DVD fact check of all time. So the person I was talking about in that clip was actually Michael Finley, the Mavs assistant GM. Mark Cuban, in a more recent interview, tried to explain it away by saying, oh, well, Luka was about to be interviewed and they didn't want him on camera drinking a beer. It had nothing to do with his weight or whatever, or them being weird about his conditioning. It was just a, like, optics thing. He was about to be interviewed in the locker room, whatever. That may or may not be true, but what remains true is I spent way too much time researching this. So, as always, this has been Dan with another DVD fact check, reminding you that if you fact check, you are being biased. Thank you.
You let that guy have his beer.
Probably the GM or somebody. I don't know.
You let him have his beer. He probably averaged like 30 in that series. Get out of here.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. This was your Jordan. This is your European Jordan that wasn't Dirk Nowitzki. This is the equivalent of you trading Dirk Nowitzki. You don't do it.
Yep.
And they never did. He played the whole career with them. So why was it so hard for Luka to stay here? And I would be willing to bet in certain metrics he's better than Dirk in. Well, pure scorer?
Yes.
Pure scorer, I give it to Dirk. All-around player, Luka.
So, Luka's 25, right? He's already been, in his first 7 years, he's been in there for 7 years? He's only 25?
He
was drafted in 18.
Woo!
Still a baby. He's already been the quarterback of two of the most efficient offenses in NBA history. Just throwing that out there. So it's not just that he's like a guy who drops 1 million points like Allen Iverson or whatever.
I love AI. That's the one AI that I'll always be behind.
Yeah, you cannot accuse Luka of like being a good stats bad team or like empty calorie scorer. He is the offense. He's much closer to like James Harden at his peak, right? Like his ability to both score and then just dime up shooters and lob to big men.
Plus, he's not really, I mean, unless he's like improved this game, he didn't really, is he not really a great 3-point shooter still, or did he improve that game? Because he started out like not really a great 3-point shooter, but he would take them but in clutch times he would hit them, but he wasn't a great 3-point shooter at the time. Yeah,
Luka's much more like he probably shoots like 35-ish%, something like that. So like right around average. I'm actually curious now. Yeah, he averaged 28 points a game this season.
Shooting 45 from the field.
He shot 36% this year from three in his career. His career is 35. So yeah, he's like an average 3-point shooter, but he has enough range that forces defenses to respect it.
And can also dish out those dimes.
Right.
He's with a team that actually where he doesn't have to
and he can go to the rim. I mean, he can do it all.
He can do it all.
And he's big, so he can rebound. He can do all that kind of crap.
I know they talked about his weight and all that stuff, but I think about TNA's Total Nonstop Action Wrestling with their X division. Their tagline was, "It's not about weight limits. It's about no limits." Luka has no limits.
He doesn't.
And they gave that guy up.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
So again, and this is the context, right, is This is a 25-year-old, probably at worst, the third best player in the NBA. So what are we saying? That is the golden ticket to being a championship contender every year.
Well, who's number 2 and number 1 now, right now, if Luke is not number 1?
I'd say probably Shea is number 1 now.
Oh, okay.
We're probably looking at like Shea or Jokic are 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah, Joker. Yep. Yep.
Take your pick, either or.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
And those two, by the way, just brief aside on MVP, are miles ahead of everybody else in MVP voting. So it's one of the two. It's probably Shea, but
I would give it to Shea because Joker's going to get like one more MVP at least before his career is done. So
that is the thing. It's really hard once you get to 2 or 3, just like with Giannis, just like with LeBron, many other guys. It's very hard to get far beyond that because the voters get fatigued.
Makes sense to me.
And it's like LeBron should have like 7 or 8 MVPs, honestly, but anyway.
If ESPN was doing the scoring.
But in terms of like, okay, how many years was this guy like pretty clearly the best player in the league? And it's like, yeah, right. Just like how Mike Trout should have like 7.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is a 25-year-old third best player in the league. This is, This is 8-9 years of like guaranteed championship contention every year. And your job as a general manager is just fill out some shit on the rest of the roster and try and see what sticks.
Yeah,
hire the right coach.
Yeah, get some G leaguers who have like, have a high ceiling or something like that. Maybe 1 or 2 of them can like, blossom as well alongside of, Luka, LeBron, and then some of the other players. Austin Reeves is still there. My boy Ryu Hachimura, he's there.
Yeah,
They got a little bit of low key depth now.
Yeah.
So,
and their defense has actually been a lot better too.
JJ Redick, man.
Yeah, he's done a great job.
He can stroke that stuff, man, for real.
Putting the ball in the hole.
Yeah. Big ups to him, man. He went from like being the most hated college player at Duke to like he's like a well-respected basketball mind.
he was an awesome NBA player for years.
And he went to from being like a analyst at ESPN, battling it out with Stephen A. Smith to probably making more money than him now. Yep. Well, actually, no, I think Stephen A. probably still makes more money.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's just in this he's in an echelon by himself. Yeah. But JJ is once you get into the coaching, circuit and you're good, approved commodity, he's going to be eating for life.
Oh, yeah. Especially if it wins a chip with the Lakers.
Yeah, and if not coaching, he could just be a good shooting coach. Yes, shooting is always going to be a hot commodity.
Shooting problems.
Yeah. Wait, court case. These Dallas Mavericks is a court case, though.
They are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, can you remember, another, and I mean, obviously the obvious thing for us is the well-covered, Mookie Betts trade, but thinking to other sports that you follow, can you think of another trade like this that's ever happened? The
Herschel Walker trade?
Maybe, but
But that was multiple players over time that built a franchise.
And I was going to say, that's the thing is however, the Cowboys got 7 starters out of that trade or something. They literally got almost the core of their championship team. So they were long considered to be the winners of that trade.
But I guess what I was thinking of, I guess basketball was remember the trade, with the Nets and the Celtics.
Yeah.
Because right now the Nets are still paying for that trade because that turned into, we mentioned him earlier, Jason Tatum. And actually didn't that turn into before that?
No, 2 of those picks became Tatum and Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, because Brown was Brown first?
Brown was taken 3rd, I want to say.
No, Brown was before the draft before Tatum, wasn't he?
Yeah. They were both taken 3rd, I believe.
Because I remember Jalen, Celtics Jaylen Brown. I'm like, who?
Who's this guy? Yeah.
He maybe eat my words pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny listening back to those really old ones where we barely knew who Jason Tatum was before he got drafted.
I knew who Jason Tatum was because he was sticking it to my Tar Heels.
Yeah. somebody made the comment, and it might have just been like a comment I saw somewhere. Somebody made the comment. It would be like the Bengals trading Joe Burrow like right now for like Matt Stafford. Like it would just be completely insane. And like trying to justify it by saying that like Matt Stafford is somehow like less injury prone.
he has a ring.
And so, yeah. And I mean, and here's the thing, and we were adding some of this context earlier, but like, yeah, in baseball, so the Angels have had Mike Trout and now Ohtani for like, I don't know, the last 13 years, counting Mike Trout. They made the playoffs once. So like,
That's one more than I thought they actually did.
Yeah, so I mean...
Because it seemed like they have not made the playoffs at all with Trout.
So they've had two of the most talented players of all time, and baseball, maybe more so than any other sport...
Baseball's also unforgiving when it comes to postseason.
It is a game of depth, and you have to have a deep team. Stars and scrubs do not work in baseball at all, not even a little bit.
Because even if you have stars, how many times have you seen the stars get bounced out in the first round?
Yeah.
Like, here's, like, it's put in perspective. You told me about this. It's like, yeah, a squad with Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox should have won multiple championships.
Yeah.
But baseball is such a sport that
random.
Yeah, they were only able to do it once. And they made it to a World Series in, but then that's when the Yankees were just beating up on everybody. So
here's where that talent does work, is that team had 14 straight division titles.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They had a shot every single year, and that's all you can really guarantee yourself in baseball is a shot.
When you put it in that perspective, like, that does make me smile. That's why I became a Braves fan, because they just kept beating on everybody in the division.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Plus it also helped that TBS was like was a major sponsor of Atlanta Braves baseball, so I got to watch them like every week.
Yep. Good old TBS.
Good old TBS.
That's right. It goes back to our old conversations about baseball being the least predictable sport, basketball being the most predictable sport. And it's like, when you have that kind of again, the level to which these guys like galaxy brained themselves into this move is just so insane.
I think they brain drained themselves.
I don't know. I mean, that's the other thing. People have been comparing this to like the Babe Ruth trade.
Ooh,
that's how bad it is.
Are they going to have the new curse?
Maybe. And here's the thing. So I titled this segment "Speedrunning the Destruction of a Franchise." Again, this is a team that played in the NBA Finals,
last year?
8 months ago.
Ooh, ew.
10 months ago.
Ooh.
And they looked like they had one of the brightest futures in the NBA. They're now, people in the like business wing of the team are predicting Mavericks fans have been canceling season tickets in such large numbers that the team has been like offering partial refunds to them. Mavericks fans are like revolting. They show up to every home game and just chant "Fire Nico" the whole time. Tons and tons of angry comments, and
sounds like a rally.
Yeah, kind of. Nico is just doubling, tripling down on it.
I mean, he can't go back.
Oh yeah, no, he's done it now.
You can't sweeten this up, man.
Yep,
it's done.
And again, just every aspect of it is horrible. I guess the other thing that was sort of cited in those leaks was, well, he's going to be due whatever, like a $370 million supermax like next year. And they don't want to be where the Pelicans are with Zion, where they are just, they have their wagon hitched to this guy that never plays, or Embiid or Kawhi. But it's like, no, that doesn't hold water at all.
That doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't. You don't want to be like with the Zion situation. Zion missed like 50-some% of his games. He maybe got like a couple All-Star appearances when he wasn't hurt. Luka would be all NBA guys, like multiple years, making the finals. You hitch your wagon that so fast. You give him a blank check and tell him, hey, fill it out. We got the jersey seller. We got the guy where talent wants to come to. You like that? That makes no sense to me. Like for them to justify that is the most idiotic thing that I would think someone would ever think or say. You hitched your wagon so fast with that guy. Cause you were able to luck out and like may I remind you, they fleeced the Hawks to get this guy. They could have easily had whatever's going on with Trey now. You could have be stuck with like a good player, but be stuck with that contract. Yeah. Ask the Hawks about that contract.
Yeah.
They would take an albatross of a contract with Luka, a supermax albatross contract with Luka any day of the week. They would wish they could replay that trade.
Yep.
And you want to have the audacity to be like, well, no, we don't want to pay this guy. You lucked out and got another Dirk.
Yeah.
A more all-around Dirk.
And it's like,
and you gave that up.
Outside the Mavericks Stadium, there is a statue of Dirk, and it says, like underneath the statue, it says something like "loyalty never fades." Whatever it is, they picked a thing. They picked a phrase that had 21 letters in it that symbolized the 21 years that he played for the franchise, and it's just so fun. And he had such a bond with Luka. They're both
European.
Yeah, they're both European. Yeah, I forget where Dirk is from.
I forget where Dirk is because where's Luka from?
Slovenian. I'm sorry, Jokic is Serbian.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I see. I was like, thought I was flip flopping them.
But yeah, no, it is funny to me that like 2 of the 3 best basketball players in the world are from like a very small area of Eastern Europe.
Think about this though; those people probably like those in small areas and stuff like that. Man, I'm just imagining like those guys being hungry.
Serbians love basketball. It is a very, very popular sport.
Being hungry.
They've produced a lot of, in Eastern Europe in general, has produced a lot of NBA talent.
Like, think about, they look up to like, the U.S. with like, the best players in the world in the NBA and all that stuff. I bet they look at them and be like, yeah, I want to beat those guys.
Yeah.
And they develop and they do. And also, let's not forget this though. Didn't they like try to go all in with getting Kyrie to pair with Luka? So it makes that decision even worse.
Yup. It's pretty bad.
I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of sympathy for Kyrie, but that's kind of sucks for him though. I have a slight little sympathy for him, but he has a little checkered history.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I hope he stayed away from his Twitter.
I hope he stays away from Amazon Video.
Yeah. Amazon Video?
Yeah, that's where that like weird like anti-Semitic movie was. It was on Prime Video. He just like randomly found it and then tweeted about it.
Oh no, is this another reason for me to curse Bezos?
Yeah.
Damn, Bezos?
They don't give a shit. They'll put anything on there. Yeah, the whole thing's people in the Mavericks front off or like business, whatever side, are anticipating like dozens of millions of dollar losses in the coming years, as many because of jersey sales, ticket sales. And again, Anthony Davis played like 1 game for the Mavericks and then like tweaked his ankle, whatever that was.
Although he went inferno when he was
good.
Out
he
there.
Looked good, but like, then like just last week, Luka came back, played his first game back at Dallas, and like Anthony Davis had like 11 points and was just like invisible for most of the game because he is not a offensive initiator. The team had so many injuries after the Luka trade that they were like, oh God, they might have to forfeit a couple of games because they don't have the minimum number of players.
Well, they couldn't like just bring up like the G Leaguers from their affiliate to like
I think that's what they actually did. But they somehow clung and they're in like the 10th spot right now, so they might actually make the playoffs.
I just kind of want to see like the train wreck or just like just playing one game and seeing how that works.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, they just, the term for this in tennis is unforced error. Like they didn't need to do any of this. And this one thing, like, I mean, it is just, you're married to the most amazing woman in the world, and then you walk in one day after work just randomly and are like, honey, divorce. And like, then you just immediately like lose your job. You end up like, on the street. You're, I don't know, you trip and one of your teeth gets knocked out.
And then you turn on the TV and then when you pick up your tooth and stuff, and then you're like, okay, I need to.
The stock market crashes, your 401k is gone.
Oh yeah. Or I was gonna say you put the tooth that you lost before you get ready to go to the hospital, you drop it in like a cup of milk, and then before that you're like, okay, let me just turn on the TV for a second, and you see the wife you just divorced is with a person that was like a lot richer than you, but also a better husband in every sense of the word and stuff.
She went from you and married Mike Trout.
and he's a humanitarian and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, you just all the L's. Just take all the L's.
And and I mean,
Jameis Winston can't even save you with a W at this point.
it is funny to me, right? Because and again, I'm not trying to make this politics, but that's how all things are now, where it's so obviously an L, and Nico Harrison is in this wonderful position where he has to keep arguing that it's not actually an L. And it is. It so obviously is. It so obviously was a mistake the second it happened. And he has to continue making this argument until he gets fired, which I would say probably I would put I think there's a high chance it even happens this offseason.
Because here's the thing. With the Mookie Betts trade, yeah, that was an unforced error. Don't get me wrong. But at least with baseball, ownership is notoriously across the league is notoriously known for being cheap.
Right.
So
and in that case,
so there's the slightest benefit of the doubt of okay, maybe this makes an ounce of sense, not much, but there's a little more so. It'd be okay, man, it's an understandability. This one made no sense.
Well, that's the thing. So, and again, that's why Red Sox fans were so upset. Is it was very clear that ownership gave a mandate to, I believe it was Ben Cherington. No, I'm sorry. No, it was Chaim Bloom. They gave Chaim Bloom a mandate. You must cut payroll by this much or else. And so he went, and we don't care what happened. Do whatever you have to do to the major league team to cut payroll by this much.
Cut every member except for Mookie. Done. Because you take him out, the jersey sales gonna be down. The season ticket holders. Well, Boston, the team can be winning or sucking, and they'll still travel. But you're gonna have less revenue and less traffic going to the said games. You get rid of a generational talent like that.
But yeah, no, and I mean, yeah, it's just.
But you just basically nuke the board in Magic, and you have no strategy of rebuilding your board state.
And it's
you just did it just to everybody, except for benefiting one person to win.
And it's there's 29 NBA teams that think Luka is all that. And the one that didn't think he was all that is the Mavericks. And
this would happen if Mark Cuban was here.
No, and yeah, that's the other thing is,
Mark Cuban leaves 1 year. Was it last year he sold it?
So that's the funny thing, right? Is Cuban, when he sold the team, was I'm going to retain a minority stake still, and I'm going to run the team still. And it's he's very obviously not running the team and had no say in this whatsoever. So that's also very funny.
Mark just leaves and it just goes to
immediately.
Mark was look, I know players come and go, and you have certain players that are the heart of a team and all that stuff. Mark Cuban was the Mavericks. I would even say to this day, is still the Mavericks. I can't look at Mark Cuban without the Mavericks. He was the one good billionaire I could look at. This guy he wants a winner. He loves this sport. He respects the game. He's trying to make sure he put out a good quality product and wants to win.
Yeah.
And he had a good smile too. And he was a fan, most importantly. Yeah. He wasn't about here just trying to make as much money. I mean, I'm sure you don't get that rich and be 100% morally right. But for the most part, it seemed like he was doing things more right, at least 60, 40, 70, 30 good versus bad, it felt like.
He actually, I think the most important point that you made is he actually cared about the team's success in a win and loss fashion.
Yeah, and how many of these teams are sold to these these companies or these people who just think of a buck.
And that's so we don't have time to cover it today, maybe next time, but like the Celtics, it was just announced that the Celtics have been sold to like a hedge fund vampire dork. So, and the guy came in and said all the right things, and apparently he was a Celtics fan when he was a kid or whatever, but like hedge fund people, every hedge fund person that's bought a sports team has done something horrible to it.
Can we just sell to like a billionaire jock or something? Because jocks like sports and they like winners.
Hi everyone, Dan here checking in with another DVD fact check. This is a pretty quick one. The finance bro term that is synonymous with ruining everything you love that I was searching for in that moment is private equity, not hedge fund. Private equity. And I'll also say, I'm cutting in from about a month in the future of this recording with the gift of unbelievably crystal clear foresight to say, I fucking told you so. This has been Dan with another DVD fact check, reminding you, as always, that if you fact check, you are being biased. Thank you. I mean, the thing is, we'll get there with the Suns. Matt Ishbia was a jock. He played college ball, and then went into business and got rich, and then bought the Suns and blew them up.
Can we just like, what's the over and under of like how many like owners that do that versus don't do that?
Well, let's just go there right now.
He was like, yeah, he bought them and then he blew them up. It was just that delivery, man.
Yeah. So
the Phoenix Suns.
The Phoenix Suns were cursed by horrible ownership for 20 years, something like that, because they had Robert Sarver, who was a
racist
human being. He was racist. He did and said like very uncomfortable things to like staffers.
Ew.
So
Devin Booker's awesome.
They had horrible ownership. At some point they drafted Devin Booker. Sure, he kind of got a reputation as like good stats, bad team.
What was he supposed to do? No, it was like him and everybody else.
And I remember, and
Dragic Bender.
I missed the mismatch on the Ringer podcast network so much because there was a period of time where KOC would call the Suns the Bright Future Suns, and it was like that era when they had Eric Bledsoe and stuff. Yeah,
that plant-based crossover.
Plant-based crossover.
Oh man,
a plant-based crossover.
Never get old.
But at any rate, so they had him, and they kind of like. Towards the end of the Sarver tenure as the owner, they lucked into a really good team, and it basically was they kind of traded for Chris Paul basically in a salary dump.
Yeah, they drafted Ayton. They drafted
Ayton in that same draft, so they didn't get Luka.
Yeah, but it was a number one pick though.
It was.
But like at the time, it was just like, okay, this was like before like shooting became really king, and it was like, okay, this guy has like a good. You had the perimeter star in Booker, and you needed like interior, and they had none of that. I was gonna say too, like before I lose it, why didn't they like cancel this trade like they did with Chris Paul? Like, because this would seem more OP than that one.
That's a good question because it was both players going to the Lakers.
Chris Paul is not better than Luka. Prime CP3 is not Luka.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not sure why. I don't know because that is why like in your fantasy league like the commissioner has veto powers on trades to stop shenanigans from happening.
But that doesn't guarantee them like going all the way. I would have loved to see that though. Instead, we got him like rotting in the clip with the Clippers.
Yeah. Oh, they were good. Lawn City Clippers were good.
Yeah, but they couldn't get past the second round.
They couldn't. They were fun. It was a fun time.
Ain't no thing unless you got that ring, or at least get to like the ultimate big dance. But yeah. Anyways, like you just reminded me when you said Chris Paul. So go ahead, continue. So they got Chris Paul. So they started building something.
And they brought in Monty Williams, who was that was like a very off the beaten path hire because I think he hadn't been a coach in a while at that point.
Yeah, but because I think he might have been like an assistant or something here and there or somewhere. And but Monty had that team right though.
And that team made that miraculous finals run. It's a theme here, in 2022, and then Giannis happened.
Bucks in 6, and then he had
and then also Chris Paul, messed up his leg again.
They also had didn't they have a couple? They were up 2-0.
Suns were up 2-0. Yep, and they lost 4 in a row.
Golly, no, they talk about the reverse jump and sweep is 4-1. What do you call that?
I'm going to call it the Uno reverse.
Yeah, there it
is. And then Matt Ishbia, another Dorcas. And I think his thing was it was real estate loan shenanigan bullshit, kind of like the guy that owns the Cavaliers. Matt Ishbia about the Suns immediately was like, do it, go get Kevin Durant from the Nets.
Because that worked out so well for the last team.
And
do people not learn through osmosis and are not spatially aware of their surroundings? I was taught that in my single digit years to pay attention to your surroundings.
Should you look before you cross the road?
Yeah. Yes.
But so, yeah, they had that iteration of the team, and I don't even remember the people they dumped, but it was Bridges. Mikal Bridges. They dumped him in that trade.
Mikal Bridges. It was some key contributors. What made them, what was their strength was, yes, they had Booker, but then they had Chris Paul,
they had Jay Crowder, they had Mikal Bridges, they had a bunch of
Cam Johnson, the shooter.
They had a big old cadre of just 3 wings. Yeah.
Yeah. Cam Johnson, 3-point shooter. They had a squad. They had a squad 1 through 5 and then 6 through 9.
Yep.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
but that's what I was worried about. Yes, if you for the right price, get KD. But there's a right and a wrong way to do it. I.e., the Warriors did it correctly until everybody got injured, and then they realized they had Jonas Jerebko as their depth.
The Warriors. Why didn't the league just veto the KD contract with the Warriors?
No, I don't know. Maybe they just felt like causing chaos. I don't know. Or maybe they just wanted to generate it would have been a good story with the Warriors becoming a dynasty or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, they could have won without KD, and then when they lost, they just were pissed off and just destroyed everybody.
We're going to call that era the fast dance.
Yes.
Anyway, so that version of the Suns was okay. And then they were cool, what if we jettisoned literally all of the rest of our depth for Bradley Beal 3 years too late?
Yeah. Man, I don't know a whole much about Bradley Beal now. I think he fell off.
He's also hurt a lot. And here's the thing with Brad Beal, because this is how long ago this was. It was the
empty stout player.
It was it was him and it was John Wall for the Wizards. That team.
That dude has some shit. Look, I hate that.
Yeah.
That's one of my big what ifs. Can you imagine if he was remotely healthy or something? And what if he had the opportunity to have a career renaissance with the Lakers or somebody?
Yeah.
But he got, oh God.
Yeah, his career was derailed by injuries for sure, just like Gordon Hayward's was.
At least Gordon Hayward, he had I think even then he had a little bit more career longevity.
Yeah. But that's how long ago that was, right? And Bradley Beal averaged 30 points a game once. And it was oh man, yeah, he's awesome. But he hasn't been that dude.
It was multiple years that he did that.
Maybe. But he hasn't been that dude in 5 years. So the time of the trade for him would have been then.
Yeah.
But it's also you
Wizards do that to you. They steal your talent away.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so your roster construction is Booker, who's like offense first, KD, who's like offense first, and Beal, who is like really, really offense first and really can't defend. And it's like,
who's going to pass the ball?
Who's going to pass? Well, and that's the thing. So that forced Booker into the role of point guard, which he can do, but like he thrived most when Chris Paul was the point guard and he was, getting dimed up and helping run the offense and not shouldering the entire load.
A lot of people are going to benefit from Chris Paul being the point guard. They called him the point guard for a reason.
It's true.
Even when he was in his 30s.
Yep.
And injury prone. They were like, you still want and need this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, oh gosh.
So
people are stupid.
Yeah. And so they had Frank Vogel. They fired him last year.
Frank Vogel keep getting work somehow. How many times has he been hired and fired and still get like high profile jobs?
Won a championship. kind of Doc Rivers kind of thing. Win a championship once, and then you can just work forever.
Vogel don't collapse as much though.
Yeah. Yeah. Woof.
I love you, Doc, but you're a choke artist.
Yeah. But then this year they brought in Coach Bud, who had just gotten canned from Milwaukee.
This is a Kurosawa coach. Hey, it's like, hey, we could fix him.
No, unsurprisingly, he couldn't take a roster and like make it good.
Plus, they still didn't have a center. Like, who is their center?
Yeah, no center, no point guard, no defense, no playmaking. Literally just three guys who are really good at like ISOing.
And no depth. Like, what was their depth is like, who's the headliner of their depth? Grayson Allen?
Yeah. And they finished 10 games under 500 and were just a complete disaster. And it's like, Philly can like point to like, oh, well, Embiid got hurt and Paul George got hurt, whatever, that tanked our season. And then we tanked on purpose.
Or we betted on the wrong horse or something like that.
But like, Phoenix never at any point in the year were actively tanking. They were trying to win and were still that bad.
They went all in when they shouldn't have.
Yep. And they went all in on the wrong guys. And again, like, I still say Dallas has the bleakest future of any team in the NBA right now because of the context.
I mean, they're going to lose a lot of money, but I'm thinking it from a basketball team perspective. It's a foot race between those two. Like, it's going to be like a photo finish on who breaks the tape first.
Like, the Suns don't have any of their own draft picks for like a while.
So they just basically did the inverse of what the Rams did. They said F those draft picks and not even get into forget about making it to the championship series or a championship game. They not even like make it to a conference finals.
And I mean, that's worse than Sam Hinkie because their consistent losing over the next 5 years is going to be helping other teams get good players. So,
It was like what the Nets did?
Kind of.
Yeah, because the Nets did it, and then they were able to, because weren't the Celtics able to swap picks for like 3-4 straight years?
Something like that, yeah. That's wild.
Oh my goodness.
Can
we just have more sane like front offices in basketball?
I'm genuinely surprised because like basketball teams are so much smarter now than they used to be. Like, there were stories in the 80s when Donald Sterling owned the Clippers, when he like literally didn't know who any of the draft prospects were and like at one point drafted a player off of a suggestion from a reporter.
Well, there's a great video that I recently watched of from Urinate and Tree that talked about like an owner in the 80s for like the Cavaliers. And like one of his rules of thumbs when it came to like building a roster was like he was trying to make sure it was like a balance of like black and white players because he was like, we don't really have a whole lot of like, like we don't really like we don't have a whole lot of like, black people, buying, coming to see the games or, he's like, yeah, we want to have like, some white representation and stuff like that. He's like, people who come to games, like, i.e. white people, like they want players they can look up to, who they can relate to, i.e. their skin color and everything. And this was before Michael Jordan and stuff. So
as a white man, and this is the first time I've ever used that phrase on this podcast. As a white man, I think we all understand that scientifically, I am just completely incapable of either relating to or looking up to a black man. Like, that's just impossible. And I certainly haven't spent 8 years doing that in front of a mic.
I mean,
there certainly isn't like 40 hours of evidence of that on the internet anywhere.
That was just so preposterous, man. Like,
yeah, that's wild.
And then they just traded picks and stuff like that. And then better players got drafted instead. Yep. And they were just like in just straight up basketball purgatory. Like, a guy clearly didn't want to win.
Yeah.
And he was just an idiot. So he was like in second command of like Donald Sterling.
Yeah, for sure.
You look it up, like, he was I think what Tree was talking about, he was the reason why you can't trade like multiple, like, first round picks straight years. That's when he had to implement the pick swaps because they had to literally stop him from doing it.
Yep. Wow. They had to put, just like Sam Hinkie, they had to put rules in to like curb someone being that bad on purpose.
And that's what like eventually spawned the plan that we're watching now, which gives a little bit more revenue and like more TV time.
A little less tanking.
So thanks, Sam Hinkie, for the play in.
Yeah. It's true. Sam Hinkie really, made my life a pleasurable one today.
And maybe he might take like a minor inspiration for like the in-season tournament, like giving like, teams that suck like something to play for.
Yeah.
So these guys have pride and they're playing for jobs. So like, hey, give them something to play for.
This is going to take us to our third speedrunning the destruction, and this one's maybe a little more of a hot take, but this brings us to the Nugs. So, the Nugs are the fourth seed in the West, as we've covered. So they're not dire, and they do still have Jokic.
Yeah, they got the Joker. They still got what's my guy? His
Murray.
Yeah.
They still have MPJ, who whatever. But it's worth noting. So this is another situation where the team. And I don't remember the context for this, but the guy that actually built the team, the GM, is no longer there. And he went to the Timberwolves and is now building that team.
So is he responsible for the KAT trade?
I believe so, yeah.
He wanted to make a splash.
But so his replacement was Calvin Booth, who
played the basketball player from the 90s?
Maybe? Is that the same guy?
I think. He sounds familiar. Like, but I used to play NBA Live.
Calvin Lawrence Booth. No, that's the same guy. Wow.
NBA Live 2000 or something.
He had a 3.3 career point average.
Wait, how much?
3.
I mean, that's 3.3 points more than us.
Yeah. But so
and he got paid a couple milli at least, and he's able to be an executive now, or owner now, or like a GM now.
Yeah, so he's been.
So dude's winning.
It is cool that they now have pages on Pro Basketball Reference for executives.
Yeah, so that's dope.
He became the Nuggets GM in 2022.
Interesting. When they were still winning.
Yeah, well, they are still winning.
Yeah. For now.
Yeah, they've won 50 games every year he's been there because they were awesome. And his first season, they won the chip. And they went 16-4 in the playoffs and were just destroying the universe.
Joker, man.
Yeah, Joker. So, he inherited a team that had Joker, that had Murray, that had MPJ, that had Aaron Gordon.
Oh, let's not forget, because I was reminded, because I saw him in, he's on the Magic now. I forgot he was there. KCP.
Yeah, we're going to get there. So, and like they had, and I think these are guys he brought in. They brought in like Jeff Green, KCP.
Who was that one guy? what's his name? Brown or something? Bruce Brown?
Bruce Brown.
Oh gosh, Bruce Brown, man.
So yeah, and they just had this awesome team with like deep veterans, and
also they got a young piece like Braun. What it's pronounced
Christian
Brown. Christian Brown. Yeah.
Christian Brown. So that's the interesting thing. So they won the chip, and then he gave that infamous interview with KOC at the Ringer, and then later tried to say that he thought some of the stuff he said was supposed to be off record, and like blamed KOC for it, which is kind of a dick move. And it's like, now reporters don't make that kind of mistake. So that's a very dumb excuse. It would be like, it'd be like if Jokic forgot how to hold a basketball. Like, that's one of the first things you learn as a journalist is like how to properly like quote and interview somebody. Anyway. So that's stupid.
Yeah.
But anyway, but so, yeah, he like immediately was like, well, we're going to try to do this on the cheap, and we want to do this with my young guys that I drafted. Christian Brown, Peyton Watson.
Oh, I forgot. I do not remember him. Peyton Watson.
Yep, they traded for KCP, Bruce Brown.
Yeah.
But yeah, in 23, they went all the way. They won the championship, and Jokic got his ring. Everything was great. Since then, they've let KCP go.
Bruce Brown left like that year. Left that all
those guys left. Jeff Green left.
Jeff Green, yeah.
And yeah, he's basically been trying to do it on the cheap, with his guys that he drafted, right? So Mike Malone, the coach, who is like notoriously kind of like ill-tempered and cantankerous. He's like very much like a drill sergeant kind of coach.
So like George Carr with more results.
Yeah, and apparently he gets mad if you call him Michael. He's Mike Malone.
Well, I think I know. I mean, it seems trivial, but I've known some people like that. Like the only people that can call that, for example, could call him Michael is like his mother.
Yeah,
somebody. Yeah, but it's just like, yeah, this is this. Like, yeah. So Michael. Dang! I almost had to slip of calling him Michael. Mike Malone. I'll put respect on his name because that man deserves his flowers.
Yeah, he coached the team for 10 years.
He got the Nuggets a ring.
He was a long tenured coach, a well respected coach,
like a title drought for that state that wasn't football.
I think it's fair to give Jokic credit for his own development, but like the coach who coached him through all of that gets a little bit of credit.
If you give him a bad coach, he's not. Jokic is Jokic, but he ain't Joker.
So there's been this power struggle between Calvin Booth and Mike Malone for quite some time, several years.
But Calvin don't have enough skin in the game as like a executive to like fight with Mike. Well, Mike is a proven commodity.
Mike wants to play veteran players that know what they're doing. He doesn't want developmental minutes for the young guys. He wants veterans. Calvin Booth wants developmental minutes for the young guys. He wants those guys to be the role players.
But what was Mike doing during that whole playoff run? Because it seemed like, yes,
he was playing veterans.
He was playing veterans, but he gave the kids playing time too, and they balled out. How much more time did you want them to have? Like, you want it to be half and half? Because the veterans' time was working. You're winning.
Well, that's why Calvin Booth purposefully got rid of those guys to try to force Malone to play his young guys more.
So you're tanking. No, you're essentially tanking. You're doing the underlying version of tanking.
He thinks he's winning.
I mean, they still got a 5 seed.
Yeah, they got the 4 seed.
But you're essentially doing the underlying part of tanking. Get some experience with the new guys, but except you're not trying to vie for like a top draft spot.
Yeah,
you're just doing the unsexy part of tanking.
The unsexy part.
Yeah, development is not necessarily like a sexy thing. It's a hard, gritty process.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always yield like results.
Yeah.
Depending on who you have.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's just weird. And apparently it became such a thing where these two guys were mad at each other over this issue that everybody around the team was. So that's the thing. So this came to a head. And it's a very bizarre thing. This almost never happens that I can remember.
So that's why they lost to the Timberwolves last year.
So they canned Malone and Booth on the same day with 5 games left in the season.
Wait, they canned Booth?
Yep. They just said, stop fighting, you're both fired.
They didn't even bother to keep one of them.
Nope. Nobody won the power struggle.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's dumb. I feel like that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
They just went ahead and cut the baby in half.
Like, have something for your troubles for the power struggle. You choose one or the other. You don't choose nothing.
Well, that's the thing is people around the team have said since then that one, it like made the whole it made the whole franchise like kind of a miserable place to work.
Oh,
and like you know,
did they like Mike Malone? It's himself. Did they like him and just like the management, or just like did the players equally hate him?
No. The sense was that, and the feeling, and again, this is not just players. This is like, you know, front office people and stuff.
Oh, okay.
The feeling within the organization was essentially like everybody kind of felt like these two guys were basically putting their own egos over the team. Probably the correct approach was probably some blend of those two things, right?
Well, Mike earned an ego because he worked his butt off and got the chip.
True.
You're naive to not think that someone's not going to have like a little bit of hubris because you literally want you in a land where it's dominated by like a LeBron James, a Luka, or an Embiid or whoever.
Yeah.
Insert superstars here. You bested all those guys. And you're the Nuggets. A small market, I guess, considered like a small market team, and you won the whole thing. You was a winner that wasn't the Denver Broncos. And like, when the last time did Denver didn't even, they had never won the chip before.
Nope.
You get the job for life if you do that.
Yeah, you should. But,
gosh.
I mean, just like the Eagles canning Doug Peterson like 2 years after their Super Bowl run. Yeah, it's weird. And so one of the things Calvin Booth said in that infamous interview was, hey, if everything is optimized here, we should win 3 or 4 championships, because that's how, you know, basically the implication being that's how good Jokic is, right? If we do our jobs correctly, we should have 3 or 4.
Also, was that like a knock at the coach a little bit?
Maybe.
Because
contextually, maybe it was.
Because optimization depends on, because optimization is kind of put on like, you know, the coach. Hey, optimization is what, like getting the most out of something. Right? And making it functional and all that. That's for the coach, right?
But optimizing is also like using resources, right? So that the flip, you know, the other side of that is every move he's made since then has given him the reputation of trying to do it on the cheap. Right? And yes, he believes in his young guys, but, you know, it's also saving the team money, right? And it's like, this isn't the time to be cheap. Like, you have the best player in the freaking world. Like
you should be going after a dynasty, bro.
Yeah, you really should be winning 3 or 4 with this guy.
It's almost like you're getting greedy for like the long term. Yes, it's like you're trying to play the you know, the rule of not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. Of course, that didn't come into fruition because that's extremely hard to do.
Yeah.
But I think that was just like more of like, you know, just, you know, for hype and stuff.
Yeah.
But that team, as great that team was, at least they made it to what, 4 straight finals or something?
They did, and that's the thing.
And they won 2.
That team, as much as they were maligned and everybody hated them and blah 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 blah, and the decision, like that team made a credible choice with Spoelstra, right?
You need who was a
little green, but now is like one of the best coaches in the NBA and has been for like 15 years.
Again, like I'm saying, episodes ago, I can't let it go unspoken. Just sing the praise of Pat Riley, the king.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
He believed it. He said, "No, I'm not going to come down and coach. This is the guy. Deal with it."
Yeah, and I mean, and also like again, you know,
and he still has a job.
I'm contractually obligated to hate Pat Riley because of the Lakers, but I mean, he also
to me he's the Heat. I didn't grow up watching him as the Lakers.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Tim Hardaway, motherfucker.
He filled out that team with guys like Shane Battier and all these really
Mike Miller,
gritty, tough role players who played defense. And the Heat like regularly had the best or one of the better defenses in the league, and that was like their calling card.
Donis Haslem.
Yeah, Haslem. Yeah.
Mario Chalmers.
Yeah. And then they made smart like veterans, like Ray Allen, who hit a shot that literally gave them a championship.
He went from Jesus Shuttlesworth to Judas Shuttlesworth.
Kind of. But he hit that shot and they won because of it, because they would have been dead.
Yeah. They were dead. He just like revived them.
Yep. So
that was supposed to be Timmy D's like sixth ring or something.
And I know, and I mean, whatever, LeBron left and went back to Cleveland, but like that team, yeah, arguably most of the stuff kind of was optimized. And they probably would have had a chance for more if he'd stayed.
But the thing is, like,
and also D-Wade was starting to fall apart at that point.
Yeah, but everybody had to like be on this, like with optimization, everything, you said, everything has to work in the resource and all that stuff. Everybody has to play a role. Everybody has to like be like, okay, assign this, and this, so everything is effective and efficient. Yep. I mean, again, why have like? I feel like we're entering the era of like, remember back in the day we were past episodes we complained about super teams ruining everything.
Yeah,
I think the era of like super teams is done. Having big threes, they don't work anymore. They just don't because nobody wants to be the Chris Bosh. No one's getting a Chris Bosh because how many Chris Boshes have you seen come to this league and be a superstar, but then come in and play his role unapologetically, but it's overshadowed.
Kevin Love.
Yeah. Yes.
And then LeBron was like, "Well, don't worry about fitting in, just fit out." Whatever.
But other than Kevin Love, how often do you see a player like that when you're trying to make a big three or something like that? You gotta have somebody to play the support role.
And that's what I mean. Like, the Suns, Brad Beal either sits on the bench injured or he comes in and tries to like ISO. I mean, that's all he does. That's his role on the team. And it's like, okay, that's not really a great use of a roster spot. Like at this point in the NBA, like you got to be able to do more than one thing.
It's like in MMOs or like, role playing games, like, tabletop or in video game form. You gotta have your beater, like your superstar, your scorer. You gotta have your beater. Then you gotta have your support. Yeah. Like you got people that, okay, maybe that can do damage over time or something like that. But you gotta have like a couple guys who can be your support to help uplift those guys who are expected to score, expected to do the most damage.
You gotta have the tank and then the healers and
So what happens when you have all tanks and no healer? You're gonna die.
Yep. Somebody's got to play Mercy.
Mm-hmm. But like Mike Malone, like it makes no sense. And plus, it makes no sense these coaches getting canned. It's like remember when winning a championship meant something for job security?
Yeah.
It's like what's the end game to this? Is this just like high school bullshit of like, I don't like you, you're done? Because it just reeks of like, hey, I don't like you. It's like you're not even thinking about the betterment of the team. It's like, yes, you have a solid coach. There have been a lot of stinkers as head coaches.
Yeah,
it used to be you held on to that guy, even if it was a coach that could just get to the playoffs and then lose heartbreaking series to like the Knicks, i.e. Pat Riley. But Pat Riley was a legend already, so he could like keep that job as much as possible. But sometimes getting to the playoffs got you an extension for like 5 years, and you stayed on for 5 years.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, you didn't get past the first round here. Oh, and this is like your second year as the coach. No, you're fired. You're not giving me time to do anything.
Well, it's sort of like once upon a time in the music industry, and the music industry is completely different now, way different even than this. But
Thanks, Spotify.
But there was a point in time in the music industry in like the 60s and 70s where if you were a young up and coming band and you got signed to a big label,
you're in.
You probably had it was usually put out like 3 or 4 albums. And then at that point, yes, if you weren't a commercial success, you were probably dumped. But like,
but you given opportunities to
you were basically treated like a developmental prospect.
And if you didn't have it, like, because after three albums, you pretty much know what you got.
Yeah.
If you got yeah. Hey, Wendell Carter, cool.
You get more into like the 90s, 2000s era, and yeah, if like your first single doesn't do well, you're done. Like, you have to immediately be a wild success or you're just dumped.
Or you catch lightning in the ball, but then you don't reach that echelon ever again.
Yeah.
You reach that height again.
Nowadays it's like, unless you are literally, the top tippity top of like the best bands, there's literally no reason to sign at all because
or be used as a meme or in a TikTok that catches fire.
Right. Yeah. You have to like chase the algorithm.
Morality, yeah.
But yeah, I mean nowadays, yeah, but anyway, that's totally beside the point. But yeah, back in the day, I think coaches got, because like you see that in the NFL now, like coaches will get fired after like 1 year all the time, and that never used to happen. It was like a guarantee if you got hired, you had at least 2 years, and now it's 1. Gerard Mayo, and I think we all agree that was the correct move.
Well, Gerard just sucked.
Yeah,
like he had the vibes of you're a good person, but you suck at your job.
Yep.
Mike Malone didn't suck at his job. Not only did he not suck, he's like barely 3 years removed from the chip.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's worth pointing that it's worth also pointing out that Calvin Booth did come in and made the key moves that helped that team get over the top because they'd been getting close for a number of years up until that point.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They finally broke through with KCP and with Bruce Brown, and you know what I mean?
Okay, see, there it is. Because for some reason I'm thinking he's came after that.
No.
Okay.
Because you could sort of make a similar argument for him, right? That yeah, you'd think you built a championship team right away. Admittedly with the best player in the world, but you did the thing, shouldn't you get some benefit of the doubt for that?
And it's now it's clicking for me because now they just haven't got Belichick or Brady. Who's the man? I built the team. I coached the team. How do you choose?
Yeah, and I mean, and also to added context, the owners of the Nuggets are our old friends, the Kroenke family.
What? No, Stan Kroenke?
Yep. It's I think his brother or some other member of the family that actually runs the Nuggets, but the family owns the team.
Gosh. I wasn't expecting that to come full circle.
So, yeah, that kind of... And I don't know. I mean, it is an interesting... none of us are in the building, but if you feel... if you have 2 coworkers that are constantly feuding and it's disrupting meetings... and making it difficult for other people to get their work done. Each of these guys will half finish a project because they, don't want to do the other guys, it the other guy's way or whatever. You know what I mean? You could see how that would be disruptive in any work environment.
So a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
Ew. Okay. I can see why they both sides that stuff, man.
And maybe I don't know.
That makes more sense.
But it is still very weird.
Gosh, that's messy.
That it happened with 5 games left in the season. That is bizarre. So I don't know. Maybe they must not think that they're going to make a deep playoff run, or maybe they think that the interim coach can, make some magic happen.
I would have at least waited.
Also, added context to this is they brought in Russell Westbrook. And it's yeah, it'd be great for the greatest fucking point center of all time is putting non-shooters around him.
Has he been playing okay though?
Whatever, he's fine. But problem with Russ is he doesn't think he's a non-shooter. He's never thought he was a non-shooter.
Rondo's a better shooter.
That's a stretch.
Okay. I just want to show some love for Rondo.
Nah, Rondo was the best.
Rondo's great.
I also love that the joke was for the longest time that Ben Simmons was tall Rondo.
Rondo was a leader.
But yeah, who knows what the future holds for the Nuggets, but it's not looking too great right now. And to be honest, if you're Jokic, just like, there's been all these little, there's been these little rumors with Giannis over the years. Like maybe he might want to try to go somewhere else and see what he can do. And you never know. And Jokic is the kind of guy who just never tells anybody what he's thinking. So he wants to go back to Sambor and like race his horses.
I mean, he can do that.
Yep.
Man.
But anyways, that was that was a lot of bullshit, a lot of torching some teams.
Also, don't forget Memphis fired a coach.
Yeah, that's the other thing that Memphis
and they don't have high expectations, so I don't understand what the end game was with this.
Yeah.
Like, you're making the playoffs and you're not even bringing the coach with you. I've never seen that. That's just lame.
It is. Yeah.
I don't ever see that in my life. That's like saying, like, say if I don't know, what is it? If an NFL coach like willed his team into like the playoffs and they say, nah, not so fast. You're done. Or they're like the 3 seed in the playoffs, and they just get like, nah, you're canned because you didn't avoid wild card weekend.
Yep. You didn't win at least a playoff game.
I don't know, but it's just everything's just topsy-turvy with that.
Yeah.
Like, when is winning not enough?
I mean,
like,
like Kobe and Shaq broke up at like the peak of their powers. Like,
yeah, after they won like 3 straight championships.
Yeah, it was like the Beatles breaking up.
This one is called Find the Helpers. So, in case you've been living under a rock, the world's burning.
See, I'm actually renting a basement apartment underneath where The Rock lives.
I mean, that would...
So that's why I don't know what's going on.
That would be cool. But, for our U.S. listeners out there, for those who are outside the U.S., you're lucky. But, U.S., a lot of mess is going on. And less to say about it, the better. I'll just let you know it is very, very depressing and infuriating and, angering, insert, your negative, emotion or emoticon of choice.
I think we can it's a terrifying time no matter where you live in the world.
Like, yeah.
Because, unfortunately, we aren't the only ones that have problems either. So
yeah,
but
there's some places that make our problems look tame, and that's still hard to imagine, but they exist. But that's not the point. So with trying times like this, I've seen this word bounced around a lot, and we talk about it, and I feel like the word is thrown around a lot, but like I feel like we don't pick up the word and break it down. Like to break it down to its like molecular, components. Community. What does community mean to us? Like mean to you? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to, Johnny down the street? What does that mean to them? What does community mean overall? And that's why I'm talking about finding the helpers. Helpers, when you think of community, you think of help. Whenever you're like, hey, if you're, need moral support or something, or someone to talk to, the COVID times taught us a lot. Like, hey, we're absolutely even if we're like introverts, we're absolutely miserable when we don't have a morsel of like human interaction.
Human beings are definitionally social creatures.
Yeah, it's like human beings are like, it's like the quarterback. You're dependent on other people to help you flourish.
It's like not having anybody to throw the ball to.
Yeah, unless you're so good that you can like throw the ball like 20 yards and then run under the ball and catch it and toe tap like on the sideline or something for a first down.
Did you Mario Manningham yourself?
Yes. Or Hakeem Nicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to throw him in there because because that was the second time and he was from Carolina. So
or
Julio. Finding the helpers is like you having your community. I'm looking at it from a perspective of like we talk about sports. We don't really talk a whole lot about like individual sports like boxing or fencing or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
We strictly talk about team sports.
And we do we do often like couch things in terms of individuals focusing on Mahomes or whoever, but
yeah, because that's what brings the ratings in, baby.
Yeah, but no, that's a really good point.
But we just talked about the collapsing of teams
and how one guy can't save just when everything else is shit.
Yeah. Or you trade the guy that could save the franchise. Yeah. But it's like I'm looking at it from this perspective, you could be the best. You could be the best person ever, but how are you going to be the best person ever if you don't have people around you to acknowledge that or to that you help and benefit or they benefit from you? For example, the greatest basketball player. I mean. We're gonna have this debate to the end of time, between Jordan and LeBron. But Michael Jordan, we don't know him. Yes, Jordan was Jordan when he came out. He came out the gates, but he didn't start winning till he got a Pippen. All
the other guys too.
Yeah, a Pippen, a Paxson, Scottie Pippen was his main helper. He had to have a Pippen. And then you look at other guys you had a John Paxson. Then throw in guys people probably forgot, a Luke Longley, a Ron Harper, Tony Kukoc. He's one of my favorite 6 men of all time. Yeah. A Dennis Rodman. Those helpers. Look at the Pistons. The bad boy Pistons and the 2004 Pistons. They weren't superstars, but they were a community that uplifted each other. Yeah. They were each other's helpers to raise themselves up and to overcome things that people thought were, impossible or insurmountable. So it's just what I'm getting at is we all need help at some point. We can't do it alone. No one can. There's going to be times where, you're going to need to look up to somebody or you're going to need to help with somebody because one day they might need your help. It's an understood, a community of just you're trying to build something, someone's trying to build something. And you can't get to something overnight, especially if you ain't got no help. So, and in tough times, you can't do it by yourself because if you try to, you're likely going to more so than not going to wind up in quicksand. So if you're stuck, for example, if you're stuck in quicksand by yourself, you're not going to really get out of it. But
and the more you struggle, the more you sink.
Yeah. Or you'll sink slowly. Either way, you're not getting out of that quicksand unless you have an arm reaching across that quicksand and trying to help pull you out of it.
Yeah.
And then another arm helping reach and pulling you out of it. And so forth until you're able to get out of it. We are in tough times there. And regardless of if, the current, the current events or not, we are as a society, as I've gotten older, I realized I can't do this by myself. Shoot, I don't want to do this by myself because
even if you could, it's not any fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where's the reward? It's not a rewarding experience if you it's when you see the the MVP, say you have Joker or somebody or MB accept a MVP award. Think of the people think of the they're no names to us because we don't know them personally, but those no names are the big names in those guys' lives. Like, hey, their mom helped them do this. Like, say their mom was like working like, multiple jobs or something, or their parents were working multiple jobs to make sure they had the opportunity to play AAU basketball or something. Yeah. And that helped nurture their gift.
Their first coach in Pee Wee ball.
Yep.
The high school coach that believed in them, saw something in them that they didn't see in themselves,
Or the pro coach decided, hey, I'm not going to give up on that guy when the front office was initially ready to give up on that said player.
Yep.
Before they really evolved into being who they are. So I'm looking at it from a perspective of like, it's okay. Like we mentioned it earlier, like a previous episode too. It's okay. I think it was the last episode. It's okay to ask for help. Because there's always gonna be times where you're gonna like need a little help. Because whether it's like, hey, like a meal, like hey, like even if it's like help you didn't think you needed, or it's like or initially wanted, it's like people ain't gonna turn down like free help or free, a free meal or free help or anything like that. That it's like it's always appreciated. It's always like appreciated when someone's like, "Hey, I thought of you. Here you go." Or, "Hey, I'm thinking of you, man. Hey, you good? Can I offer you this help here? Or offer you an ear here? Or offering like, hey, quality time." It very few people are going to reject that. Or, look at that as a negative. If anything, it allows it. If it's not going to help a person, like a worst case scenario, if it doesn't help a person, it will at least distract the person from whatever shit they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's probably not going to make things worse.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, it will have like some therapeutic value.
Yeah.
So, and I look at like friendships. Friendships are built and maintained of like support, moral support, like monetary support, emotional support, just time support, like any of that, like all just under that umbrella. We're people who that is crucial in this world, especially now.
Sometimes it's like, when you think about how like those kind of deep relationships form, a lot of times it's a product of like going through difficult times together. Even if like both of you or all of you or whoever, if it's a group of people, like even if nobody was even capable of helping each other that much, sometimes just experiencing difficult times in each other's company is, sometimes that's the best you can do. And
yes,
and that is helpful, and that it absolutely creates bonds.
Going through the suck together sucks less.
Yeah.
It does.
I can think of like a million different like cheesy and less cheesy like things. Like, I mean,
bring all the cheese.
I mean, I like, to me, the thing that still stands out to me the most in the Lord of the Rings movies is at the end when Frodo can't go anymore. He's too messed up from carrying the ring for so long, and he's physically beat up, and he can't walk the rest of the way up the mountain. And Sam goes, "Well, I already know I can't carry the ring for you, but I can carry you." And he just fireman carries him up the mountain.
Wow.
Yeah. Those are incredible movies. They still stand up.
Again, helping the helper. This guy was helping to carry the ring, but he was helping the helper because to give him that extra little bit, because when he had reached his limits, a person was there to be there when he needed him the most.
Yep.
And that's where we are, I feel like, as a society. Know the people around you. Can you count on these people? When the chips are down and when the shit gets hard, will they be there for you? Yeah. And I want to know that I'm surrounded by a family. Like either family that I grew up with or a family that I chosen. I want to make sure that I'm surrounded by love. Knowing your helpers, being surrounded by that love, being surrounded by that positivity positivity, being surrounded by people who are going to elevate me and make me better.
People who believe in you even when you don't believe in you.
That's a big one right now, because when all like me struggling with like me feeling like, hey, things are hopeless. What's the point of doing this, this, and this when it feels like it's just going to be the same, or it's going to be what it's going to be? And having people to be like, yes, all this sucks, but it doesn't completely suck. And here's why. And like, help you see a glimmer of light or glimmer of hope. That you wouldn't otherwise see on your own.
All you see is a little daylight.
Just a little bit. Just a peek.
And I mean, remember from all the way back, sometimes, life does have like a profound, deeper meaning or whatever, and you're like doing or experiencing things that are like affirming in some way. Sometimes the dog needs to be fed.
Yes.
And that's the reason you get out of bed.
Yes.
Because the dog needs food.
Yes.
And the term I like to use is like sphere of influence or sphere of responsibility. I like influence better because I think
Sphere of Influence was actually a Japanese hip hop artist's name.
Really?
Like Zebra's brother. Yeah. Sphere of Influence. He's on my iPod. Cool. Yeah. I got 2 albums
on your iPod.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, interruption.
The idea of, okay, what is actually, and I think it's probably more simply
what is love
as, there, you don't hurt me.
No more.
It's more simply explained as like, okay, what can you actually control? Right?
Not much.
That's the thing. People say this all the time. It's such a cliche. Oh, worry about the things you can control and the wisdom to tell the difference or whatever. And it's like,
yeah, the Serenity Prayer.
And that is good advice. It is good advice. But like, what does that mean?
Hey, speaking of Pippin from earlier, hey, it's his son.
That's his son. Yeah.
Good for you, man.
And okay, but what does that mean in real life, in practice, right? Like
saying and practicing are 2 different things.
And it's like, yeah, right. And everybody kind of goes, oh, well, you can vote every 4 years or whatever. And it's like, fair enough. But like, okay, what else can you do?
You can learn.
You can
learn things. You can take knowledge and pass it on.
But you can also like, I think it's an interesting thing. And I guess probably most of our listeners are also in the US, but like, if you're not in the US,
don't give up, guys.
Well, nobody should give up anywhere.
Never.
But if you're not in the US, I think a really important cultural thing to point out here is, because I don't think, I don't know.
Love has no language barriers.
I don't get the sense that other countries are exactly like this in quite this way, but like American culture is like very, very focused on like the nuclear family, like very focused.
And wait, define a nuclear family.
Like, mom, dad, kids.
Yeah.
And like, and this is everywhere. This isn't just the US, but like, and I've been banging this drum for the longest time that like the social media, technology driven, chat GPT driven age, like people are becoming more and more and more isolated from each other, sitting in the same rooms, even sometimes.
Yeah. Cause how many times have you been like, hey, a get together, and then like, at the initial, greetings and stuff like that, 30 minutes in is like, every other person's on their phone.
Yeah. And like you go to the grocery store, everybody has headphones in, and whatever, you're going grocery shopping, you don't want to be interrupted. That's not my point. But like, other public spaces you go into, it's like people exist like with the specific intent of like ignoring each other in those public spaces. And I think that happens everywhere. And, different countries, like I've heard, apparently Finland is very much like, very much like mind your own business and stay away from me, which,
Isn't that like just like the mindset of like the North?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Finland!
I guess countries that are cold and miserable a lot tend to have that kind of ethos.
And probably better off than us too. I just felt like also saying Finland this way because Patrick from SpongeBob, when he like fell down his hole or something. Like
But with like people becoming more and more isolated, I think one, like trying to form those connections is going to help you selfishly. Like it'll help you first and foremost.
Just protect my sanity, because I feel like I need helpers just to like it. It sounds more, but to keep me from like to kind of like serve as sort of like human guardrails to keep me from going off the deep end. Because I feel like if I'm by myself and if I was a hermit, I would just I'll be plunging off the proverbial cliff.
But
metaphorically.
But here's the other way that it also helps you, right? So I would say in my life that I have kind of teetered way too much towards I care more about other people than I care about myself. And so,
I grew up being that way.
and I'll be
and still that way.
And I've been open about on this podcast about my whole mental health journey. I've been in therapy for many years working on this thing because I deserve to be cared for by myself and by others, but it's not all one or all the other.
Also, thanks for inspiring me for opening up about my journey too.
Absolutely.
So
if you start participating in a community of people that are helping each other,
that's the key. You got to get on the horse.
You are helping, which helps you feel valuable. It helps you feel like you have a purpose.
You're on the team.
Yeah,
you're on the team. You're on the court.
You have a role.
Whether you're regardless if you're 1 through 5 or 6 through 12, you're part of the team.
The difference in the times in my life where I felt like just a mindless, revenue generating, distraction generating machine
going through the motions
are just the times that I felt the most worthless and the most where you honestly start questioning. You're like, why am I doing all of this?
Does this matter? Why am I here?
And it's
does this, is this our purpose to this?
And I mean, that's, for me, that's why I create art, because that helps me feel valuable in some way. But it's also why
it's also your gift.
Oh, I like to think so.
Yeah. It is, man. Seeing these guitars and seeing all these interfaces, these pedals and stuff like that. I'm just dang, this feels like a low key, Guitar Center store. It
kind of is. Yeah. It's It really
seeing this makes me smile, man. Seeing and you just sharing this gift with me, being on the cast.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Feeling valued by other people is no, it's not going to fix you if you have clinical depression or serious health issues. That's not so much the point.
Or if you got people who are wanting to help you, but you're rejecting said help. So certain things you gotta do for you on your own, and then others can help bridge the rest.
And there's I don't know. I keep coming back to balance. You can't do it all for yourself. Other people can't do it all for you. It's got to be a little of both. And because we've all had that experience of interacting with or having another person in our orbit at some point who very clearly has no interest in helping themselves. And what happens to those people is they end up without a community. And sucks for them.
Or worse, they might have a community that enables said behavior.
That too.
And it just becomes a slow, suffocating death. Yep. So I mean,
either way,
there's different tiers to this shit.
Yeah. And my point is really just that, I've had my days of going why me? Why is it like this? Why do I have to live during whatever? And I don't want to make other people depressed. So I'm not gonna give voice to those thoughts right now. But I've had those days, and what I've tried to do is just refocus on, okay, what can I control?
Yeah.
What can I have an impact on? And it's other people who are around me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it has a twofold benefit of it helps other people, which I like doing because my tendency is to want to give more than I receive, and I have to learn to do both. But it also means that I'm now participating in this sort of cyclical.
You got it. You know what? Sound it out.
Cyclical.
Bingo. You got
thing.
It.
A symbiotic, reciprocal relationship. And
insert other SAT words right here.
Cool.
English major, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I studied the written word.
It almost sounds like you studied to be a priest.
I was called to write essays about Jacques Derrida. No.
You got the message from a burning bush.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good one. And I think, and I get it, like, it sucks, things are scary. And for a lot of us,
it's an understatement.
And I mean, and again, and you can do this reading on your own times, but like, there's tons of examples from history of people who in, horrible, horrible, horrible circumstances who like made that choice to be a helper and to, and to participate in whatever kind of thing that they could. What did the best they could with the time they were given, and
that's true.
And that's really all that can be asked of any of us.
Like, for the way I see, the way I look at it, like, because I was thinking about this, like, because I need people in my life to, like, to help me remember, like, to remind me of who I am. Like, I mean, obviously, I gotta make sure I do that for myself, look within myself to do so. But like, just having a community and knowing who my helpers are and stuff, it makes me feel a lot less isolated, and the world feels a lot less colder when you feel like you're not, alone. So like, people that you can huddle around you and, like, retain more, that type of thing. And I think about the times where, friends have been there for me and friends have been there for others that, who have been in our lives, who we know of. We've seen the reciprocated, like, support and that being built over many years. Just be like, hey man, it's such a blessing to be like, and such a gift to be like, hey man, I'm having a tough time. Can you help me with this? Yes. And then, because you never know, because you might be the person like, hey man, like I'm the person that needs help. Hey, can you help me with this? Certainly. It's like this understood of like, hey man, I've proven to scratch your back. You've proven you can scratch my back. And it's not like a transactional thing. It's just like, no, that's just the bonus of just being friends.
Yeah. Like
having people who care about you, be like, okay, yeah, like you got, like, knowing the real ones. Like, hey man, I know if I'm not dependent on this person, but I know at a drop of a hat, 9 times out of 10, this person will be there.
Yeah.
That's special. That's a gift. And I feel like that, the way, with technology and the social media and all that stuff, I feel like sometimes that does fall by the wayside. But then again, you talked about, with social media, you talk about, hey, like, this person was like, they're really low on themselves and stuff. Hey, I don't really have a friend and stuff. And then the people in that thread was like, no, I'll be your friend. No, I'll be your friend. Hey, we'll all be your friend. Here. And this person comes in, here's my number. Call me. And then friends that you don't, and then, the helpers where you didn't least expect. Get a little bit political here. Even as people you don't know, it may not seem like it, but like knowing where to look, where the help is, or to see where the support is, or to see where, people who, where you're not alone at, like when you see the protests, it's like, I hate Tesla too. It's like, it's like, there's this understood of like, a lot of people really hate like being fired for no reason. Or people stand up and be like, there's thousands here who don't agree with a lot of like something that should be like an understood, wrong here. There's a lot of people who are like, hey, no, this is wrong. And looking at that, it just like seeing like that whole, like looking at stuff like that as being like, those are helpers. I don't personally know them, but seeing that like can give me a little bit of hope.
And that is why marching happens. It's a public display. It's meant to inspire other people, and it's meant to, we have a complaint and we're not going away.
We're not gonna take it.
We aren't gonna take it.
No, we're gonna take it.
I love that, like,
we're not gonna take it anymore.
You know, as part of that thing that, like, the government people who were like, grilling Dee Snider also referenced, like, the lyrics of that song where they're like, well, are you trying to inspire, like, young people to rebel or whatever? And it's like, yeah, kind of. Like,
I mean, it's in the culture of our music. Like, you clearly don't know, haven't been listening to our music. That's kind of an important element to that genre. And I look at it from this perspective, like, what happens? Like, how would you feel, or how would I feel? Like, because I'm calling myself on. I'm like looking at this. I'm like, hey, what is the point of, like, seeing these people march and stuff? It's like, well, you're not in power, so, like, what is this going to really do? It feels like, oh, this just feels like a waste of time or anything. But I have to take a step back and look at it, because, how would I feel if this didn't happen at all?
Yeah.
How much more isolated would I feel? How much more hopeless would I feel if I didn't see that out there occurring?
Yeah.
So I need to be careful, like, what I wish for, or say, before I say, oh, this is pointless. I would feel way worse if I didn't see these occurring, because then, like, I'll be like, okay, wow, there's a lot of people who are standing up for, for this stuff, and I'll feel less isolated, and I could feel inspired.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the helpers of, like, who we know and don't know, and honestly knowing where to look, looking, like, the topic being looking for the helpers. Call myself out on this as well. Certain parts of social media or the internet, i.e. Twitter, you're not going to find your helpers. Sometimes even, like, certain parts of YouTube or Reddit, you're not going to find your helpers. It's going to, if anything, it's going to find your unhelpers. It's going to find your discouragers. It's going to pull you even deeper in a hole. So you also have to have the mental fortitude, or to have the have the mental know-how to know where to look for these helpers. So it ain't just like having helpers, it's also knowing where to look for your helpers.
Yeah.
Because you can easily get lost if you look in the wrong places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I made this point probably on really old episodes, but, like, nobody can be about the struggle 24/7. Like,
you're just going to crumble, man.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's impossible. It's an impossible expectation. Mm-hmm. And you got to pace yourself and pick and choose where you're going to apply pressure and where you're not, where you're going to look, who you're going to ask for help and advice and whatever else, and I saw a thing, and, I always try to temper, because it's like, I have to keep in the back of my head that, like, everything I see on the internet now might be fake.
Yeah.
Especially on a site like Reddit, where, you post anonymously, and that's the whole kind of point. Literally anything you're reading could be a troll. It could be ChatGPT. It could be any number of things. But anyway, I just want to say that I saw this guy on some Reddit I was reading, and this guy was like, I have not been hugged in 8 years.
Damn.
And I think about that guy a lot. 'Cause, like, I've been hugged this week, like,
it's like you're being hugged as we speak.
I broke my streak just now.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I have those days too, man. Like, I get down on myself. I get down on myself about my life.
Just one of those days
where I'm going, what I'm doing, is
like, it feels like there's no point to it.
Is there literally, and, again, like, listening to old episodes, like, again, context, like, the first, like, 2-3 years that we did the show, like 2018 especially, 2018 was probably the worst year of my entire life. Ooh. Like, so far. Well, hopefully it's the worst forever. But, like, I was not well. A lot of horrible things happened in my life that year, and, like, my life completely fell apart, and I had to, like, literally, like, start and rebuild from scratch. And, like, and yet, like, during those months, there are episodes, and there's evidence of this because it exists on the internet, and everything on the internet's real.
Our stuff, that was real.
This is real.
That was legit.
We have a badge that says we're not AI generated.
Yeah, there was no AI. There was no playing it up for the mics or for the show for more entertaining value. That was real. That was real sports with Bryant Gumbel.
There's hours long recordings of me being in a good mood and like laughing and joking and doing all the shit that we normally do. And like, and again, like I remember that as like a profoundly upsetting, sad time. And yet in the midst of that, somehow this thing happened. So, I mean, even that wasn't probably as bad as I remember it being, you know?
I mean, it doesn't change the fact that you was going through it, but it, again, it was like, you know, something, at least if nothing else, a distraction or something like a little bit of an uplifting to help you get through. Like, hey, it's like, hey, the dog needs, like, maybe like a dog needs food. Like, maybe it doesn't like doesn't really solve your problems, but it makes it a little bit more palatable.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all I think we get so caught up in wanting to, you know, get rid of our, like, you know, hey, like for people want to get rid of our sadness, get rid of our depression. We're all or none people. But like sometimes there's just always going to be caveats to things. Sometimes we just need to be like, make things a little bit more tolerable at least. We don't have to do it alone. And I'll just say for the love of God, universe, or whatever, don't do it alone.
No,
because this is the thing. Because when you start doing things alone, like you end up really being like, could you run the risk of like being a broken individual? I'm not saying people are broken because you're not broken, like, but like you end up making yourself vulnerable. That's why cults exist. Like, and I'm not taking a knock of like, you know, based on current events. It's just that's why cults have always and will continue to exist, because either you know, people will scoop up the vulnerable, or people are looking for help in the wrong places. And then it devolves and it just becomes like a big mess that you can't hardly get out of, because then you feel like you have the helpers. You feel like you have this so-called family, and then you get in so deep that maybe you feel like you don't have anywhere else to go if you leave this false sense of security.
Cults?
Not Indianapolis. We like you.
Cults, gambling, hucksters, entrepreneurs who want to sell things that don't work. They all have something in common, and it's that their target audience is vulnerable people.
And how are you when are you at your most vulnerable? When you're by yourself, when you don't have a strong community, when you don't know who can help you at that time, you know, versus like those people sliding in and being, being given that false insecurity. Know your helpers, help the people around you, also helping yourselves. And you don't have to do this alone, and don't do this alone. Your life will be your life will be will be at least a little bit better, and your future self will thank you. I just want to say, like, sometimes, you know, I feel like I don't have the energy to come out and do this show, but I'm just glad when you're like motivating me to like to still come out and do so. And even if we didn't like record, like just it does me a big favor, a big solid to like just coming down to kick it with you. Yeah. And I just want to say, just like I just like really appreciate that. Of course. And I always look forward to like, you know, listening to these episodes. Give a shout out to like, you know, Achilles heel. I have listened to that multiple times to like inspire me to keep going, and to like be like a snapshot, like a look back at where I was like being in a cast and like not be able to walk, and here I am, like going back to our old stomping grounds, like at our old college, and like just being able to walk. And the only thing I could just think of was just like yes, like I had seen people like playing pickleball and stuff. I was like, damn, I wish I could get out there, but in due time. But I was just like, man, I'm like gracious of being able to be able to walk and be able to enjoying the nice breeze, and just being able to being able to put one foot in front of the other, and instead of like clicking and clacking with my crutches, which is exhausting as hell, by the way. So hopefully you listeners out there, y'all don't have to know what that feels like. I feel like that's inevitable. Everybody has to experience that at some point. But if you can avoid that, I would recommend that you do, because it's a quickly humbling experience. I'm just glad to be here, and just glad being able to just do another episode, and just doing it at hangout time.
This is our thing, and I like to think we're pretty good at it.
Yeah, it's just evolving from where we were, from the math doesn't work to now.
Math doesn't work.
Yes. One of my favorite lines was when you just said "Bing f***ing go."
I should bring that back. That should be like a catchphrase.
That's what I knew. I had said had like a zinger of a line. I was like, to this day, I just feel so proud of that. Like when I emote that, like elicit that type of reaction, it's like to this day, like I'm just like, that was the one.
We'll close on a little silly nugget. So
like we always do.
A little silly nugget named Jokic. No.
Ooh.
I have been, one of my weird things lately has been going back and listening to Apple's like automated transcription of old or reading the automated transcription of old episodes. And it's like, I would say it's like 95% accurate. Like it's scarily accurate.
Like just like with YouTube,
and I'm sure that's all AI, so whatever. But however, some of the time it doesn't quite, because it doesn't totally understand like context, and when somebody maybe starts a sentence and then says something else in the middle of it or whatever. I do that all the time, and I especially did that years ago when I really wasn't comfortable in front of a mic. So that first or second episode, whenever that was, where we were talking about Sam Hinkie, and I said Sam Hinkie. And what I meant was, I started and then I changed my mind and then I just said Sam Hinkie. Apple was like, oh, Dan said I Sam Hinkie. And seeing that written out in words, like I was sitting here at like 2 a.m. and I was like, well, I don't want to risk waking D up, so I have to wait and remember to text him the screenshot in the morning so that he can see the words I mean,
that would have been funny as hell if I like woke up to that. Like if you would have sent that during the nighttime, because because I think I like have like vibration or something like that. So I probably would have like woke up like 2 or 3 in the morning to that, and that would have been funny as hell. Like,
but yeah, I just had to tell that story because I thought it was very funny.
I mean, yeah, man, that's
the legend lives on.
The Sam Hinkie legend will never die. Like he's the official mascot. He's been the mascot like every for this podcast, because he's been mentioned in every episode. So he's our mascot.
He is. He really is. And every episode is tagged The Process and Sam Hinkie. Every single episode.
Hey, here's a hypothetical. What if like Sam Hinkie did like a workshop or something in our neck of the woods? For the memes, would you go?
Oh yeah.
I'll be right behind you. We'd be like, hey, and then the question is, do we tell them about the podcast? Be like, you're our inspiration, man. Like,
honestly, at this point, like, I genuinely don't think he's like a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy. It's just
I genuinely think he'd probably think it was funny at this point.
Honestly,
like, he hasn't worked in the NBA in years now.
Especially if you showed him like the little the little illustration, the little logo thing. Like, the guy has heard. He's been called and said and had way worse said about him.
And if you think about it,
we would just be seen like at best maybe a detractor of like, yeah, losing on purpose for so long and unapologetically is a dumb idea. That's tame compared to what he's probably heard.
And I mean, if you think about it, in the pantheon of Philadelphia executives, he isn't the one who was thin-skinned enough to possibly violate HIPAA on a burner Twitter account. So,
and he also wasn't the one that chose like Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler.
That is also true.
So like the problem with it, he's like he had the bowl of clay, but he just didn't like mold it into something. He just kept trading out bowls of clay in hopes of and people told him to build it, or people like, hey, we can't leave class until you build something. And he just said, nah. Yeah, so he just got in trouble just not building something. Yeah. Man.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so, yep. So what do you always say?
I think it goes a little something like this.
Like this?
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
No. I wish I could just hug you all, but I'm not gonna.
But someday he will.
Hey.
Later, everybody.
Also, go listen to Alice in Chains Unplugged because it's really good. Peace.
And out.
He surprisingly couldn't
Toots.
He surprisingly couldn't put a turd in the blender and turn it into a smoothie.
Well, even if you could turn it into a smoothie, nobody wants to drink that.
That was a dumb metaphor.
No, I'm saying, if you're blending shit, you're just gonna get smoother shit.
Yes.
It'll go down a little easier. It ain't gonna make it any less refreshing. Any more refreshing?
Get into like angry video game nerd territory. You know what you're doing.
Okay. Okay. All right. Back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
Yep. See, I don't care if people call me Dan or Daniel. That doesn't bother me at all. People are going to call me whatever the fuck I want. Sometimes it's fuckhead.
I don't think that anyone's ever called you that, but if you're giving me permission to do that, I'm just going to come out of the blue and just like put a shock to your system at that. Hey, head.
I'm your player, D with 2 E's, and always beside me to my left is head.
That H-E-A-D. Remember the basketball player Luther Head?
Oh my God. Wasn't there like a guy named Brad Hand in some sport too? Like a pitcher? Yeah, it really was. It really was. Yeah, it really was like that. Oh man. Oh boy. That is the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life.
And rightfully so.
No.
Whoa.
No. You send that picture and then you Photoshop my face onto that cute girl that was next to Julian Edelman.
Oh no! Get on my level.
I'm saying.
Hey, well, to be fair though, someone has Sam Hinkie.
Yeah, he has kids.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just met the 76ers.
Oh God.